Hello, I'm Rhys Bowen. I write the Molly Murphy Mysteries, a historical mystery series set in early 1900s New York City, and the lighter, funnier Royal Spiness series, featuring a minor royal in the 1930s. I also write several big standalones, the latest of which is the Venice Sketchbook, and I love listening to the Dark and Stormy Book Club podcast.
Hello and welcome to Dark and Stormy Book Club. Last year we visited the Fright Reads Book Festival in Annapolis, Maryland. It was the first in hopefully a growing series, and we had some interviews with some of the wonderful authors that attended. We've selected this for our recast for this week's episode, and hopefully we'll be back next week with a new episode. We apologize again for taking so much time off, but I hope you'll be understanding of the situation. Enjoy. I'm Ann Dark.
I'm Tracy Stormy.
And I'm Kathy Knight.
And together we are
It Was a Dark and Stormy Book Club,
a podcast for mystery lovers.
Welcome.
If you enjoy our show, please consider contributing to the Dark and Stormy Patreon. By becoming a patron, you will help us create better and quality content. There are also benefits to becoming a patron, such as exclusive content and Dark and Stormy merchandise. Become a supporter at patreon.com/darkandstormybc. Check our website for the link. We appreciate any and all contributions. Thank you.
Today we have an interview with two of the authors that we met when we attended the Fright Reads Book Conference on October 2nd of this year. We enjoyed our visit at Fright Reads. It was the first of a hopefully growing enterprise, and especially since we haven't been able to get out because of COVID. It was really nice to be able to attend an event and actually see people and authors. Not that authors aren't people.
And just be around like-minded people in general. It was a wonderful day.
It was, and hopefully it will grow bigger as the time goes on. We look forward to next year's. First, we have a visit with Clayton Toon. The Burgers Brothers Family Funeral Home is book 1 by Clayton Toon. The second book in the series is called What Lies Between the Lakes. This is his most recent book. It came out September 20th of this year. It is available on Kindle or in paperback. It is self-published. It is listed on Amazon. For a competitive price, Donnie and Frank Berger's Family Funeral Home will help bury your loved ones. For the right price, Frank Berger's will dig them back up. This scheme brings in extra money for the home, but lands Frank in a morbid mess. Picking up where the Burgers Brothers Family Funeral Home book left off, Frank discovers an anonymous package left at his front door. Inside is damning evidence of his lucrative grave robbing. The person who left this package blackmails Frank into recovering a bizarre object from a teenager's coffin, setting off an amateur investigation that will lead Frank and his friends to unearth a disturbing case and even more menacing secret. Faced with a witness to his crimes, unexpected expenses for the family business, and the unrelenting curiosity of a small-town police officer, Frank must decide how far he's willing to go to save the home and himself. And if he doesn't listen to the peculiar warnings of a few locals, digging up too much history may bury him. We would like to welcome Clayton Toon, not the football player, to the program. He is the author of the Burger Brothers Family Funeral Home And book 2 is called What Lies Between the Lakes. Welcome, Clayton.
Thank you very much for having me.
Let's start off by letting our listeners know all about your series.
Sure. It's a two-part story that focuses on the Burgers brothers who own a small town funeral home. It's the last family-owned funeral home in this real town of Murray, Kentucky. And it's not doing too well because of the corporate-owned funeral home across town. And so one brother decides that he would like to sell the home, and the other brother decides that he will do anything it takes to make the extra money. And that's what he does. He ends up selling body parts. He comes across a client who just happens to mention that they wish they could have an item that was buried with their ex-wife. And he gets the bright idea that he could get that item back if the money was good. And that's what he does. And so he starts this new business venture of digging up items and selling off parts. And that's where book 1 begins, when his older brother finds out what he's doing. And book 2 picks up when he gets himself too deep and gets blackmailed about what he's been doing. And he has to go dig up an item that is buried in the coffin of a teenager that died. And it's at that point that this investigation begins, and they get themselves into an even deeper mess. Both books have a quirky side to them. It's definitely a dark comedy. Book 1 is probably more of the family drama, and book 2 centers on more of a murder mystery with maybe a touch of paranormal in there as well.
Would you consider these young adult books or adults?
I would say that it would be adult in the sense that it's about adults. My 13-year-old read the first one. He understood it. He thought it was funny. He enjoyed it. So yes, young adults could probably read it, but it does focus on adults, and there are probably some adult themes in there. There's mild language. It's not too gruesome. The second one has a little bit of violent descriptions, but nothing actually gets violent. There's no sex in the novel. Yeah, I would say that young adults would probably be fine.
So it sounds like young adults would be very attracted to this.
I mean, I would think so. Yeah.
What is your background?
Oh, goodness. I actually went to college in the town that I wrote about. I went to Murray State University. I studied theater there for 4 years. And I moved out to the DC area with my wife and son and started work for the federal government. I then switched over to working as a minister for a church, and then switched over to working as a massage therapist.
Oh my goodness.
All over the map.
That's covering a lot of bases.
Yeah, I tried to do the massage therapy and the ministry together at the same time. That one did not pan out. But yeah, going from theater to government, preaching, and then massage therapy, yeah.
The massage therapy ministry would make an awesome book.
Yes, it would.
And that could go in a lot of different ways as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
What got you started writing?
Oh, gosh. You could probably ask some of the people I grew up with. And one of them even told me that I talked about writing when I was 8 or 9, which I'd forgotten about. For this story in particular, my roommate in college and I had heard about these 2 brothers who got convicted of selling off body parts at their funeral home. And we thought that was the funniest thing. We would go back and forth describing what it would be like to be in this funeral home and have a funeral here. And years later, it grew into this story, and here we are, 2 books later. I guess you could say it's based on a true story if I ever figure out who those 2 guys were.
Do you have plans for the series to continue?
I have plans to continue working in the town. The 3rd book that I wrote, it's not out yet. It does not center on the Burgers family. It centers on 2 girls. And the girls are mentioned in the 2nd book. So it's all taking place in the same town. And so I kind of want to keep that. I know that Stephen King did a lot in that same fictional town. Adam Sandler movies, he kind of does the same thing. He has this whole Adam Sandler universe where characters come and go. So I wanted to keep that. So I will use these characters again, but other books will focus on different characters, and some will just kind of come in and out as we go.
So the theme is the town.
The theme is the town. Yeah, that's probably the connecting force there.
Will people in the town recognize themselves? Do you put actual people that you've met in the stories you write?
I do not. People who live and have been in Murray will recognize landmarks. I don't usually use real businesses, and I don't use real people, but they'll recognize when I talk about Murray State University, when I talk about roads, all the roads are real. There's a place called Land Between the Lakes, which is what the 2nd one got the title from. That's where a lot of the darker stuff happens in the 2nd book. People recognize that. But yeah, I would say that there's quite a few places that if you know Murray, you'll pick up on it.
Well, Clayton, we really look forward to reading this. I just downloaded it on my Kindle so I can read it. It looks like something that I'm going to enjoy. And
I
we
hope it's
thank you for talking with us, and we wish you all the best. And when your next book comes out, let us know so we can give it a shout out on the program.
Will do. Yeah. Thank you guys so much for having me on. I appreciate it.
And we hope to see you at the next Fright Reads.
Absolutely. I'll be there.
Okay. Thanks, Clayton. Good night.
Y'all take care. See ya.
Okay. Bye-bye.
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 That was Clayton Toon. I neglected to ask him, but his website is claytontoon.com. And now we're going to talk with Dylan Roach, the author of The Purple Bird. It is published by Little Creek Books. It came out in 2019 and is available on Kindle, hardcover, or paperback on Amazon. No matter how long he has yearned to escape his boring life as an ordinary teenager, nothing can prepare James Shaughnessy for the afternoon when he meets a figment bird called Archit, and the two of them set off for the world of Nalgordia to break a centuries-old curse. Being the hero of his own fantasy adventure isn't exactly what James expected it to be, but when he finds himself caught up in an epic fight against a force of evil, he knows he might be the only one able to stop it. Archit's fate now rests entirely in his hands, and there's no turning back now. We would like to welcome Dylan Roach to the program. He is one of the authors we met at Fright Reads Conference, and he has a book called The Purple Bird. Welcome, Dylan.
Hey, thank you. It's good to be welcomed.
What was your takeaway from Fright Reads?
Fright Reads was really cool. They had a nice mix of people. You had 20s and 30 somethings who were there for themselves. You had parents with small children. You had seniors. It was a great mix of people who were all there to just celebrate having an overactive imagination. It felt like everybody was there because they wanted to indulge in stuff that was creepy or fantastical or a little bit weird. So I was really excited about that. There was just so much good energy there.
After being locked down with COVID for a year and a half, it was so nice to be somewhere.
Yeah. I was just going to say it was my first in-person author event since before the pandemic started.
People were excited to be there.
Yeah.
And I just can't wait to see if this grows, how nice it'll be in years to come.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Dylan, can you tell us a little bit about The Purple Bird?
Sure. The Purple Bird is not horror. It's not dark, but it is a wildly imaginative fantasy story, and actually starts off in a little bit of a creepy way in that it's about a teenage boy named James who discovers that his chemistry teacher is actually an evil wizard who is tracking down a creature named Archit.
Aren't they all wizards?
Exactly. It just happens to be that James's teacher really is quite literally an evil wizard. As James is making his escape, he serendipitously crosses paths with Archit, who is this purple-feathered creature who's been living under a curse that James's teacher, Mr. Birkin, placed him under hundreds of years ago. Now that James knows what he knows and Archit could use a companion, James finds himself swept up in this adventure, traveling to the far-off world of Nalgordia, where he's off on a quest with Archit to break this curse, but then they find themselves up against this force of evil that's threatening to destroy the realm of Nalgordia, and James, being a human, is the only person with the power to stop it. So he's going to have to reach down and find the hero inside of him and fight dark magic and save the day before he's able to return home. That old story.
Oh, yeah. What age group would you say this is for?
This is young adult YA audience. I would say ages 12 and up. There's nothing in there that's inappropriate for younger readers. I've talked to some middle schoolers and some advanced elementary readers who have really liked it. If they're reading Harry Potter, this would be the same sort of age range. I have also talked to a surprising number of adults with whom it's really resonated because it takes them back to their imaginative self at a young age. People have been saying it reminds them of Labyrinth and Dark Crystal.
Oh, okay.
Story. Yeah. It's got a real sense of nostalgia to it for adults as well.
Well, I found it interesting that Archit is what you call your protagonist and not James.
I guess they're both the main character. James's character arc is very much affected by Archit. Archit is his strength and his courage and really the catalyst for him coming into his own as a hero.
A lot of adults enjoyed Harry Potter. I was going to say, you're talking to one. She loved Harry Potter.
I read every one of them. And my mother read them before she passed. I read it in her honor.
And I think that there's something about Harry Potter that really speaks to the little bit inside of us that really wants to still believe in magic and still wants to escape the real world from time to time. And I think that we don't ever really grow out of that as adults. We might try to suppress it a little bit. But if you talk to most adults, they still want to believe that they're going to find, now I'm making a Narnia reference instead of Harry Potter, but they still want to find an entrance to a magic world in their wardrobe. Aren't we all just kind of hanging around hoping that happens to us one day? And
of course we are.
I would love it if my book hit the same note for people that those books do.
I think it's just peer pressure that we had to tamp all that down as we got older.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
It's still in there.
Yeah.
Looking through your bio, I had to chuckle when it said that in elementary school you were reading Shakespeare and Dickens. You are truly a man after my own heart. I did the same thing.
Yeah. It's been so long, I can't say that I necessarily understood every word that I read at that young age, but I do recall there was a copy of Great Expectations lying around my dad's house one time when I was in like 3rd or 4th grade. I picked it up and I read the opening chapter. It's difficult. I stumbled through it, but that was kind of what started a interest in the classics for me. And I knew that I was going to come back to it one day. And it took a few years, but I just love the literary history that we can look back on and really enjoy these stories that have stuck around for so long.
The Purple Bird is the first book. Is there going to be more?
When I wrote The Purple Bird, I wrote it originally intending it to be a standalone, but I've heard so much positive feedback, and I really do think that I loved this world and these characters that I want to go back there. And so I've started planning out ideas for turning it into a full-fledged series. That series is kind of on the back burner right now because I have started working on a second separate story called The Tide and the Stars. And right now, that was something that I started as a standalone, but now I'm envisioning it as a series as well. Hard to say whether we're going to get a sequel to The Purple Bird or we're going to get The Tide and the Stars, but it's all sort of how I let my writing muse guide me at this point.
Will that be a fantasy also?
Yes, it's another fantasy.
Oh, nice.
Very good.
Well, Dylan, it was such a pleasure to get to talk to you, and we really hope that we'll get to see you next year at Fright Reads or
Absolutely.
maybe at some other book festival.
Can you give us your website so people can find you and your books?
My website is Dylan Roach Writer. That's my name, DYLANROCHE, writer.com. And people can also follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Dylan is Writing.
Dylan, thank you for talking with us.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much.
Okay, well, thank you for talking with us, and you enjoy the rest of your evening.
You too. Take care.
Bye-bye, Dylan.
Bye.
We selected these authors because we cover a lot of adult authors in this program, and we thought the young reader author need to show their mettle also. The Fright Reads Book Conference was small, but it had quite a variety of authors in attendance. We just had a little sampling of 2 of the authors we met, and you can find more information at frightreads.com. We had a reason for recasting that episode. Fright Reads will be back this October 1st from 12 noon to 6 p.m. It will be held at the Benfield Sports Center at 1031 Benfield Boulevard in Millersville, Maryland, which is very close to Annapolis. If you want more information on tickets or how to attend, or if you're an author and like to attend also, you can go to frightreads.com and that'll give you everything you need to know. We hope we'll see you there. All right, well, that brings us to the end of another episode. We hope you enjoyed it, and please join us again next week. And remember,
Life would be boring without a little mystery.
bye.